you are going after some of the largest entities that exist: big pharma, big agri, big government, the CIA, the FBI. Do you think that means that we elect you, right? Are you going to live? Are they going to come after you?
Well, that's not something, Will, that I worry about. I think there are, I'm not stupid about it. So I have, the government, the White House has denied me Secret Service protection. But I do take precautions, and I have a very good security firm, Gavin DeBecker Associates, that is doing my security right now. So I'm not, stupid about it, but it's not something that preoccupies me. I was raised in a family where we were taught that number one, there's a lot worse things than dying. And one of those things is living like a slave or having our children lose all the freedoms that so many generations of Americans died to give us and to protect during the Revolutionary War. There was a whole generation of Americans that put their lives on the line, their fortunes, their property, their salaries, their reputations, their contacts on a line to purchase us these freedoms. And many of them died. During the Civil War, 659,000 Americans died to keep these freedoms. And we have to be willing, our generation, to make sacrifices to make sure that we don't lose them, And we've seen attacks, unprecedented attacks, on our freedom of speech, on our freedom of worship, on all of the amendments of the Constitution over the past 3 years. They're unprecedented. And it's important for everybody to stand up and say, we're not going to do this. We're going to, even if there's some risks involved, reputational risks, salary risks, we need to make sacrifices for our country. Hamilton, Madison, Adams said that they put freedom of speech in the First Amendment of the Constitution because all of the other rights depended on it. A government that has the capacity to silence its opponents has the power to commit any kind of atrocity.
I was going to ask you about the connection between your position against central bank digital currency and free expression, how those relate to each other.
Yeah, I saw that. I got, my kids knew a lot about Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, and I hadn't paid attention. And so I heard about it from them, but I didn't pay much attention until I saw the trucker strike in Canada. And our organization, Children's Health Defense, had been following the trucker strike. The truckers in Canada were protesting the COVID mandates, some of the lockdowns, and masking mandates, vaccination mandates, and others. They started in Alberta, and they picked up thousands of trucks as they drove across Canada to Ottawa. And we had an embedded reporter with them. And so we were following the whole time. And when they got to Ottawa to protest, they were trying to petition Prime Minister Trudeau. And they were exercising a right that we all take for granted in this country. It was a right to assemble, the right to protest, right to petition their government. And the government instead condemned them as right-wing fascists and racist, which if you look at the videos, they're the opposite. It looks like Woodstock. They were delivering bottled water. They were cooking food for the poor. They were picking up garbage. They were, there was musicians on every block. It was really a beautiful thing. The government used facial recognition systems and other intrusive technologies to identify the participants, all the truckers. They got their license plates, etc. And then they froze their bank accounts. So they couldn't get diesel for their trucks. They couldn't buy food for their kids. They couldn't pay for their education. They couldn't pay their mortgages. One trucker told me that he was going to jail because he couldn't pay his alimony, and he was under a court order to pay the alimony. It occurred to me then, that transactional freedom is as important as freedom of the press or freedom of speech. Because if you have freedom of speech in the First Amendment, and yet when you exercise that speech, the government doesn't like it, they can starve you to death. They can throw you out of your home because you can't pay your mortgage or your rent. So transactional freedom is absolutely critical to freedom of speech. And that's why I've supported, if we get a central bank digital currency, they do what they do in China. Like the truckers in Canada, they were never charged with a crime. They were certainly never convicted. It was just they were doing something the government didn't like. The government was able to destroy their lives, and that is a very dangerous power to give government, and that's why I'm against central bank digital currencies, because that is part of the path to getting us where China is today. That's where they started. That's where all these other countries started, with a central bank digital currency. And it's the end of freedom. We will be slaves if we allow that to happen.